She writes laugh-out-loud, page-turning mysteries for people who want to escape with real, complex, and flawed but likable characters. She's written everything from cozy mysteries to witch mystery novels, and even some steampunk mysteries. So if you like funny, action-packed mysteries with complicated heroines, just keep listening. Well, welcome back to the Bookshelf Odyssey podcast. As I mentioned, I have a special guest with me today. Her name is Kirsten Weiss. She's a cozy mystery writer, among many things. We're going to be talking to her about her writing journey and how she came to write her books. And she's got a new one just coming out in time for the holidays called Gingerbread Dead. And the blurb here for that says, the tea and tarot room owner Abigail has her hands full for the holidays. But when a business owner is murdered in her small California beach town, she and her tarot reading partner Hyperion are on the case. Now with a cranky cop on their tails, the duo must find a way to solve the crime and stay out of the slammer before a killer cancels their Christmas. Well, Kirsten, welcome to the Bookshelf Odyssey podcast.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. That book sounds amazing. I love a good cozy mystery, especially one set at Christmas time. So I'm looking forward to reading that series.
Oh, thanks.
Well, we've got you on today. We're going to talk a little bit about your writing journey and how you came to get published and all that. I know for every author, it's different and it's an exciting journey. Before we get to all of that, though, I like to get to know my guests a little bit, and so I like to ask one of the most important questions of all time. What's your favorite book?
The one that pops to mind is The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova, which is my favorite Dracula story of all time. And I worked in Eastern Europe, so the whole post-Soviet and during the Soviet period atmosphere just speaks to me. And she's a beautiful writer.
Yeah, I remember reading that. I think it was back when it first came out. In October, I just did a reread of Dracula again because, you got to hit the classics once in a while.
Oh, yeah. And that's a great book. Oh, yeah. The original Dracula, obviously a great book, a classic.
Yep, absolutely.
But I like the way, I think Kosova used Dracula sort of as a metaphor for the Soviet period and how that governmental apparatus was sucking the lifeblood out of people and crushing their spirits, just like Dracula. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but since she wove it through the Soviet period, I picked that up. But I could be projecting.
Possibly. Yeah, who knows? Well, I remember reading it thinking there's something, like I can tell she's trying to tell me something. I'm not sure I'm smart enough to pick up on it yet, what it is, but yeah.
Well, in any case, it was a beautifully written book.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, very much. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what books you write.
Well, my name is Kirsten Weiss. I write, for the most part, cozy mystery. Lately, I've been writing more funny cozy mystery, although I have done a good bit of what they call witch cozy mystery, and I'm planning on getting back to my witch mysteries. Next year, but I really love writing humor. It takes me a lot of edits to get to the humor. But I love reading humor. I love writing humor. I love making myself laugh with my writing and hopefully making other people laugh too.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the cover now of your book, Gingerbread Dead, and I'm laughing over the cover of this book because the poor gingerbread man is looking like he's being dismembered. And
yeah. Okay, who doesn't bite the head off the gingerbread man first? Come on,
right.
Let's be honest.
Right. Go for the head, or if you want to, play around with him, yeah, bite his legs and arms off. Yeah, absolutely. Tell us a bit about that series. Let's see, the Tea and Tarot mystery series. What can we expect in that?
Well, it's a humorous mystery series. There's the heroine Abigail Bean Blossom runs the tea room side of things, and her partner Hyperion runs the tarot side. So they've got tarot readers inside the tea room, which is actually inspired. Years ago, I went to a tea shop that had tarot readers in it in Tampa, Florida. I don't think it exists anymore, but I thought it was a really interesting combination. And so Hyperion's, I want to say Abigail's a straight man, but she's funny too in her own way. And the two make I think a pretty good detecting duo. They meet in the first book, steeped in murder, and they're sort of enemies to begin with, but they become allies. And So it's enemies to friends instead of friends to lovers, which is a common romance trope. Yeah, it's just fun. It's California beach town. It's just, cute. There's tarot readers, there's tarot readings, there's baking, and a lot of laughs.
And I'm noticing a lot of the occasional tea pun as well. That's always appreciated.
Yeah, I try to pun in my book descriptions.
Yeah, perfect. Well, and then you write quite a handful of series here, including one on a paranormal museum, witches, like I mentioned, steampunk mysteries. You've just kind of seemed like you cover a lot of ground on those.
Yeah, I'm pretty prolific. I may have too many series that I'm trying to juggle at the same time. At this point, I'm not sure how I'm going to manage it all. I kind of feel like my witch mystery series, the Doyle Witches, is closed. I have 13 books in this series, and I feel like it's done, but I know there's people who still want more. So I think I may write some shorter like novelettes in that series just to keep everybody happy and keep it alive, because I do enjoy it. There's a point where it's like I want to move on to other stuff too, and have new characters and new ideas and new situations, and it's just fun to play.
Yeah, well, plus 13 books in a series about witches. That's just like a perfect number.
I know. If I write any short stories, it's going to mess everything up.
Right. Yeah. So where would you recommend people start with your books?
Well, it depends on what you like. If you're looking for like a straight cozy mystery, then I would say my Wits End mysteries or my Pie Town series of mysteries. Those are just, classic, funny, straight cozy mysteries. If you're looking for something with just like a little, like tiny hint of the paranormal, then the Paranormal Museum series. It's set in a paranormal museum, and the paranormal museum owner is kind of agnostic on the whole haunting issue. So the reader can be the judge if there's something haunted going on or not. And then with the Tea and Tarot series, there's tarot readings, but I approach it from this is actually how tarot readings work, and this is what goes on. So not so much, like big magic where sparks are flying and witches are flying around on brooms, but more like, this is what happens in a tarot room. And then if you want to go full paranormal, then something like The Witches of Doyle, which is a witch cozy mystery, or my Rika Hayworth series, which is a little bit more, it's almost urban fantasy. It's with a slightly older protagonist. Now they're calling it paranormal women's fiction mystery, I think, is the new Amazon category for it. But it's an older series though. A new category, old series.
Okay, great. October, a lot of people say, is a great time to read, the spooky books, or the even for cozy mysteries, those that tie in with witches and magic and all that. But I actually find October somewhat good, but November, especially when it's really starting to get cold and dark and gloomy, and then you get that cold, foggy night. It's just perfect time to read books like this and stay inside.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny to think that the Christmas season used to be the time for telling ghost stories, because now it's
right.
The vibe is so changed. But yeah, if you think about it, it was dark and cold, and hundreds of years ago, that was the most dangerous time of year where people were hungry, and it was a much spookier time.
Right. And I was telling you beforehand on my Christmas podcast, I like to read some of the classics Christmas stories. And what I first found out as I was looking for them, from like the 1800s, is they were all ghost stories for the most part. And
oh, really?
You've got your classic Christmas Carol,
which is also a ghost story.
Right. And then Dickens wrote some other stories he published at Christmas in Christmas editions of his magazines, but most of them are not even set at Christmas. They're ghost stories or spooky stories, or just stories of the weird, not just by him but others. And that was what they would do, is they would tell ghost stories. We've talked about why that changed, and I think probably Halloween, at least in the American culture, had some to do with that kind of pulls some of the ghost stories back a bit, and then you can leave space for the more cozy reads. And there are some Christmas themed that are more cozy, or not so much a ghost story. You can find them, but that was really a surprise. So anyway, all that to say, how did you become a writer? Can you just walk us through your journey?
Yeah, I was a huge reader when I was a little kid. and as an adult. And
Mm-hmm.
I knew I wanted to be a writer when I was pretty young, but that dream sort of got pushed into the background. You get older, have to get practical, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I was always trying to write stuff. So I was writing bad manuscripts and bad mystery novels, and they all got, shelved or lost. And then I got an MBA. I joined the Peace Corps, went overseas, and I ended up staying overseas doing international development work, microcredit specifically, for about 20 years. And I kept writing. I was the one everybody would go to when they had to get something written, like a little story about a client or whatever. And I finally came home in 2009, I think it was. And I really floundered after being overseas for so long, especially doing such a weird job in microcredit. What most people didn't know what that was at the time. And I just couldn't really fit into the American job market. I was getting a lot of interviews because people saw all these weird places I'd been. I'd been in Afghanistan, I'd been in Kyrgyzstan, Georgia. So everybody wanted to interview me, but I was a little too weird for the company. Nobody wanted to hire me. At least that's the reason I give in my mind. It couldn't have really been me. It was them. So I was floundering for a couple of years, and I started just doing odd jobs just to kind of keep the money flowing in, because I had to do something. I couldn't just sit around. Mm-hmm. And finally, at my wit's end, I wrote a book, The Metaphysical Detective, which was the first book I wrote in my Riga Hayward series. And that was in 2012 when self-publishing was just getting started. And so I thought, well, I'll self-publish it. Well, fortunately, not many people bought it because it wasn't a very good book, but I wrote a second book anyways, and I got an editor for that one. And I learned a lot. And then I went back and I fixed The Metaphysical Detective. And then after publishing the second book, I was approached by a writers cooperative called Mysterio Press. And they said, we think your book was pretty good. You want to join us? And we'll, publish the book as a writers cooperative. And I was like, this is amazing. Yes, I didn't know what a writers cooperative was, but they're going to publish my book, and that sounds really cool. And so I started doing that, and then eventually I got an agent, and I got contracts with some traditional publishers. And then I kind of went back to my writers cooperative because I found that I could make more money publishing through them than I could through the trad publishers. Although the nice thing about the traditional publishers is they have some of my books are actually in bookstores, so people can go in who are browsing and find my books that way. So I like that it's a different distribution method that I can't really get into so easily publishing through the cooperative, which is kind of like advanced self-publishing through the cooperative. But it's the cooperative is great. I love it. And then I just for a long time I kept going back overseas doing kind of 6-week gigs here and there to keep the money flowing in. And eventually I started making enough money where I didn't have to do that. I could just write full time. So here I am.
No, that's got to be satisfying to say, oh, I've reached this point. I can do that.
It is. There's always a new peak to climb, though. I'm never satisfied. But yeah, it's wonderful to have the freedom and flexibility to work from home, do what I want to do, take time off to do a podcast in the middle of the day.
Yeah. I like that what you said, that, you still have challenges, whether you set them for yourself or, there's just always a challenge in publishing. I'm sure there's many challenges that come up. One being you have to, once you get your book done, you got to write another one.
Yeah, I'm currently working on, I've got one book that I'm writing, one book that I'm editing, and another book that's been written that's just kind of marinating on my computer right now, waiting to be edited. Yeah. So there's always new stuff to write. And then there's the marketing side of it too. It's not enough to write the book. People have to know you've written it. You have to get out there and promote it. And when you're doing it yourself, that's all on you too. I mean, you can of course pay people to do that, but you have to have the money to do it. And it's still, in some ways, it's like easier to do it yourself because I know exactly how I want it done. And sometimes it's easier just to do it than have to teach somebody to do it.
Right. Right. I've talked to a lot of authors now, just in this past year, and everyone is different, and everyone is different about what works best for them too, which is amazing. I was just sitting here thinking, there's one of my favorite authors is Louise Penny, who writes the Three Pines Mysteries. And she said she spent like 10 years working on her first book, and it was published and everything. And she thought, all right, there we go. I published a book. And then her agent is like, well, where's the second one? She said, what are you talking about? I got to do more. Okay.
And you can't take 10 years for book two.
No. Right. So, even someone like her, has those same challenges that, that all of us would have if we were to pursue that career, as you as well, that, I've got to keep writing. I've got to engage the public. I've got to know how to market, how to do this and that. And yeah, we can have people do that for us, but you're really wearing a lot of hats especially it sounds like the route you take from self-publishing to even the writers co-op there, that there's still a lot of hats you're juggling.
Yeah, it's not just writing, it's a full-time business. Yeah, with everything that involves.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I mean, it sounds like you wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, I do it's funny because I got an MBA back in the 90s, back 1992. Mm-hmm. And that was with the internet was still just, it wasn't really a thing at that point. I mean, I think I got my first email account in 93, 94. And with the internet, marketing has changed so dramatically. Most of my books are sold online now. So it's, even with an MBA, there's still so much to learn. I mean, the principles of business are all there and the principles of marketing remain the same, but the tactics are completely different. And in the publishing industry, they're changing so dramatically and so frequently because so much is based on what Amazon is doing, what BookBub is doing, what all these different advertising platforms are doing. Oh, Facebook changed the way they do ads. Now you can't do ads this way. You have to do it that way. It's just a constant stream of information and things to change. And, will this work for me? Won't it work for me? So it's a little bit hair pulling. And I recently decided I need to actually spend less time writing and more time marketing, which we'll see how that works out, because I'd rather spend more time writing and less time marketing, but the marketing has to happen.
Right. And I mean, very few of us can survive on name recognition alone,
No, only there are very few Stephen Kings and J.K. Rowlings of the world.
Yep. The two I was just thinking of. Yeah. Very few. Yes. What has been one of the best moments in your life as a writer?
I mean, there have been so many great moments. When I was contacted by Mysterio Press asking me to join the Writers Cooperative, that was like such a moment for me of, wow, they think I'm a real writer. Yeah. So I'm not deluding myself. And then, getting the agent, that was huge. And then getting the first publishing contract, that was huge. Yeah, they're just, it's hard to separate them because each new milestone is, it's a new leap forward. Mm-hmm. Now I'm just enjoying the ride. It's so much fun to write stories and publish this, make my little books, and publish the stories and interact with people who enjoy the stories. And it's just delightful. I love my life.
Well, good.
Not all the time, but I love my writing life.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love it. There's just something satisfying about, have a goal. I want to create a thing, and then you just go and do it. And that's one thing I've experienced in podcasting. It started off as, I mean, it's still a hobby basically. But it's something I did because I was bored during COVID, and I've always wanted to try it, might as well. And it just really turned out to be more fun than I ever could have imagined it to be. Speaking of books and all those good things, you have a new one just out, Gingerbread Dead. Tell us a little bit about this book and the series.
So this is book 5, I think, yep. In the Tea and Taros. Yeah. So it's book 5. So at this point, Abigail and Hyperion have been solving a bunch of crimes. So when a man is murdered just down the street from them, they are like, of course, we're going to investigate it. Although they're kind of making excuses for why they're going to investigate it because they know they shouldn't be investigating it, which is kind of funny, I think. But anyways, so yeah, I actually kind of played off the I think it's pretty subtle. I don't think anyone would notice if I didn't say anything. But I played off the Christmas Carol theme. So there are the man who's killed is kind of a Scrooge-like figure, and we've got different characters who sort of represent the various ghosts of Christmas. I mean, they're not ghosts; they're actual human beings, but
Yeah.
character-wise, they're thematically they're a bit like the ghosts, and it's another funny romp through the imaginary town of San Borromeo, California, during the Christmas season, which California during Christmas time is a bit warmer and sunnier than other parts of the country. Christmas time,
just a little bit, yeah.
So yeah, the usual. We got the cast of quirky characters, the tarot readers, and her grandfather and her uncle, and her next door neighbor Brick, who's a contractor, and just yeah, I had to do that.
No, that's great. Yeah.
I am not beneath dumb jokes.
No, hey, that's a sure way to get my vote for a good book.
But there's an incident on a giant Christmas Vinox pyramid, which I didn't really, those, when I was a kid, I had this, or my parents had this kind of German pyramid, and you put candles on it, and the candles make the top spin. And so these little like wise men and stuff go around and around and around. And as a kid, I found that endlessly fascinating. And then I saw this video of Japan, and there was this giant one. It was life size. It was 3 stories tall. These life-size people, shepherds and camels and stuff going around on the Vinox pyramid. And so I thought, okay, the town needs to have a Vinox pyramid near the beach, and something crazy has to happen on the Vinox pyramid. And it does. I won't say any more than that. But yeah, this is basically where I'm going with this book.
Okay. I love the Christmas Carol angle on that. If anyone follows me on any of my podcasts or YouTube channel, I end up talking about Dickens eventually. And so now I'm really excited to read this book. That should be a lot of fun.
Well, like I said, it's pretty subtle. But it's there.
Oh, well, hey, that's fine. Yeah. Sometimes it's better to not just beat you over the head with it, Awesome. And now, are your books available in stores, or I know you said some of that because of how you sell them may not be?
Yeah, my Pytown series is available in stores. The rest of my series are all now through the Writers Cooperative. So that's all available online: Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Google Play, Nook, Apple Books. You can get the paperback on Amazon.
I know we have some who are hoping to be writers someday who listen and look for advice. So if you had even just one bit of advice to give to an up-and-coming writer, what would you tell them?
Well, the obvious piece is just to keep writing. I mean, that's how you learn.
Yeah.
Really, you write, you make mistakes, you cringe at the stuff you've written later on, but you cringe because you've learned more. So I'd say write. And I mean, I'm still learning so much. Don't get satisfied with your writing would be my other piece of advice. Because there's always something to learn and always ways to improve.
Was that a hard thing to learn when you start getting that criticism back of, here's how we can make this better and all that? Or
I'm very thin-skinned. So yes, yeah. But it's good. I mean, in my heart, I'm this thin-skinned little child, but intellectually it's like, no, this is making it better. So I really do like good, solid criticism so I can improve my writing and improve things in my books. Although even though sometimes when I first hear it, I want to kick the table over. I don't do that. Yeah. I sit down, I take a breath, think about it. Is this valid? Is this not valid? Yes, it's valid. Make the change.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of exciting too, because I find the process of learning new stuff exciting. I think I'd get bored with it if I felt like I had it all locked down, quite honestly. And again, I don't think you can ever have it all locked down.
I can't remember which interview this was now, but they told me something similar about that, about, finding a good editor and find it someone you can trust, because the author and editor really work together on a project in a lot of ways.
Yeah. When I hired my first editor for the second book I wrote, The Alchemical Detective, I felt like I'd gone through several college courses at the end of that process. I learned so much because she just, took my manuscript apart and explained, this is, You need to do this here. You need to do that here. You need more emotion. All this stuff. And she was right.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it in future books. And again, it's a continuous process, but getting a good editor is very important, especially if you're self-publishing. It's so easy to, you wrote it, you know exactly what you meant. And after the fifth time you've read it, you really know what you meant, but then somebody coming new to it could make absolutely no sense too. So having another pair of eyes on it is very useful, and another pair of professional eyes, you can really upgrade your writing is even better.
Yeah, 'cause I know when self-publishing first came out, that was one of the criticisms, is that they needed an editor. They needed an editor. We heard that a lot. Whether that was true or not, I didn't really read a lot of that until just recently. I've really gotten into even going beyond, traditional published works. I mean, partly because I heard so many criticisms about self-publishing that I just kind of ignored it for quite a while. But then you realize, well, no, it's not that, traditional publishing is better. It's just, it's different. It's what worked for them. And there are some gems being published and self-published that really deserves, more attention and more publicity around it. But all that aside, make sure that, the work that you're putting out is your best. And an editor is certainly that route.
Yeah. I mean, I would say in self-publishing, the quality still varies, but I would say that in traditional publishing too, sometimes. I mean, there have been some stuff published where I just, what the heck? But the nice thing is, if you go on Amazon, there's this feature, look inside the book, and you can usually read the first chapter. I think the first 10% of the book, you can just look at online and read for free. So you can get free samples and decide if this is a book worth reading pretty easily.
Right. Now, and then that puts the pressure on you now I got to make a really cracking first chapter, because if they're going to come and sample this thing, I got to get them hooked.
Well, but that's true in trad publishing too. If you want to hook an agent or hook a publisher, that first chapter has to rock it.
I imagine they see so many manuscripts.
Oh yeah. That you have to grab people right away. I mean, I've gotten in the habit now, somebody dying in the first chapter, or usually by the end of the first chapter. And I wrote a book where somebody died at the end of the second chapter. And I got all this feedback. Oh, it started so slow. It's like, what are you talking about? Do I really have to kill somebody right away? Can't you wait for 2 chapters? No. Okay. I learned my lesson. Someone dies in the first chapter.
Now, see, I read a book where there was one, and it was really good, but and it was a cozy mystery, but I don't think the person died until maybe like page 50 or 60, 70. It was much later into the book. And she had said, my editor was kind of like, maybe that should be moved up, but she said she kind of stuck to her guns in that case. But it worked for me. But
yeah, I think people's reading styles have really changed too. I think we have a shorter attention span. Excuse me. And we want things to happen right away. We want to be continually hooked. We want the pacing to be tight. And when I look at I like reading books from the 1980s, the kind of what I consider my golden age of mystery, with the Elizabeth Peters and Joan Hess and all those wonderful mystery writers. And they do have a much slower pace, and the person might not die until later in the book. And they take more time to develop the characters, but they're building suspense. Like, something's going to happen. But I think people today, most people don't have the patience for that anymore. They want to be hooked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even like with podcasting and YouTube videos, all the things I would watch to learn how to do this. And they would say, that first 5 seconds, you got to hook them or they're going to lose you. And then others will say, well, it's not necessarily, everyone had their own idea, but yeah, if you watch your analytics, which I don't as much as some do, but that first 5 seconds, everyone's watching, and then it starts dropping off down throughout the video. And if you let it weigh on you, you're like, oh man, look how many just dropped off. But that's typical for every video. So I'm not too concerned, but yeah, it's been a ride. I tell you what, it's really fun doing these things, interacting with your public, creating something. It's so, it's just joyous. I find it a real joy.
Yeah, I feel really blessed to have this opportunity to do it. It
Yeah.
was a childhood dream, and I can't believe it actually came true.
Yeah. Awesome. One final question for you. What is it about cozy mysteries that you enjoy, whether writing or reading?
I like the puzzle. I like the quirky characters, and I like that there's resolution at the end. I mean, that's the promise of the cozy mystery, is that the bad guy will get caught,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll get his or her comeuppance, um, which unfortunately doesn't always happen in real life. So I think in that way, it's a double escape. You're in this safe little world, and you know that at some point everything's going to be resolved, and the world will be righted again.
Now, do you have a website people can visit you at, or where would you send
Yeah,
them?
if people go to kirstenweiss.com, they can find my website there, and they can also subscribe to my newsletter. There's some freebies on the newsletter, some free short stories, and a free copy of Fortune Favors the Grave, which is a novella in my Tea and Tarot series, which is exclusive to newsletter subscribers. Can't get it on Amazon. You can also get that if you go direct to kirstenweiss.com/get-the-book.
Do you have any new books coming out in the next 6 months or so? Or
Well, Night of the Cupid is coming out end of October, and I think this podcast is going to actually show a little bit later than that. I've got another Tea and Tarot mystery coming out in the spring called The Sword and the Scone.
Perfect.
And another Wits End mystery coming out after that called The Bantam Menace. And then I'm also working on a kind of more of an art project. I'm writing a book. Well, Hyperion, the character in my Tea and Tarot series, is writing a book on tarot. And there's going to be a mystery woven through the end notes of the book. But the actual book is if you want to learn how to read tarot cards, this is it. It's kind of each tarot card is described with a little bit piece of flash fiction and of his life. So it's, I don't know, is meta the right word for that? I don't really know what that word is. Anyways.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So
fun.
it's just something. I don't know if it's going to sell. I think it's a fun project. I've talked to other tarot readers. They're like, yes, please do it. Go for it. So I'm going to go for it.
Awesome. Well, that all sounds great. And folks, if you're like me and are about ready to start on that series, I think we're in for a ride. It should be fun. So, and if you enjoy the series, definitely make sure you tell your friends about the new book coming out, Gingerbread Dead, and get that's a great gift to give someone for Christmas. Sounds like. Kirsten, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
We appreciate having you. Yeah, and best of luck to you and all that you'll be doing in the future.
Thanks.